Why do Japanese people at 90 maintain muscle mass, stable weight, and disease-free bodies while Americans at 60 struggle with obesity? The answer isn't genetics or willpower. It's understanding how the human body works and building daily habits supporting that biology naturally. I'm Dr. Kenji Yamamoto, a Japanese physician who spent 25 years studying elderly Japanese populations, observing how their bodies remain metabolically resilient and prevent chronic diseases plaguing Western countries. What I've discovered, the Japanese approach to food and movement isn't built on restriction. It's built on physiology. They've built habits keeping insulin sensitivity stable, inflammation low, muscle preserved, and metabolic rate elevated. These habits aren't difficult. The difference is consistency and integration into daily life. Over the next several minutes, I'll walk through what I've observed: specific foods, movement patterns, and eating practices keeping Japanese bodies from gaining weight even as they age. I'll explain the biological mechanism behind each one. By the end, you'll understand why a 95-year-old Japanese woman maintains the metabolic capacity of a healthy 50-year-old American, and how to apply that to your own body. This is about understanding how human physiology responds to specific inputs and making practical choices aligned with that biology. Let's begin. Before going deeper, I want to invite you to subscribe. What we're about to discuss is information mainstream health media doesn't prioritize because it's not profitable. This channel uncovers the actual science of longevity, biological facts remaining true whether they're popular or not. Every week, I release research-backed content about preventing disease and maintaining metabolic health like the healthiest populations in the world. You're about to learn things challenging what you've been told about weight loss, metabolism, and aging. Some might seem counterintuitive, so I'd love hearing from you in the comments. If something surprises you, comment about it. The comment section is where real conversation happens. Finally, hit like if this information is helpful. It signals to the algorithm that educational content matters and helps more people discover the truth about how their bodies work. Let's move forward. Japanese metabolic health doesn't begin in adulthood. It begins in childhood through consistent dietary patterns training the body's insulin response and establishing metabolic flexibility. By the time most Western adults reach their 30s, their metabolic machinery is locked into a pattern resisting weight loss and becoming increasingly inflexible. When a Japanese child grows up eating smaller meals throughout the day with balanced macronutrients, protein at every meal, healthy fats from fish and plants, carbohydrates from whole grains and vegetables, something specific happens. Their pancreas doesn't work excessively hard. Insulin levels remain stable. Muscle cells remain sensitive to insulin. This insulin sensitivity is the single most important metabolic marker for weight loss, disease prevention, and longevity. In Western populations over 50, the opposite occurs. Years of large, infrequent meals heavy in refined carbohydrates have trained bodies to become insulin resistant. When you eat a meal, your pancreas pumps large insulin amounts, but cells don't respond appropriately. Glucose stays in the bloodstream longer. Insulin levels spike higher. This insulin resistance is the root cause of weight gain, metabolic slowdown, and nearly every chronic disease in aging populations. The remarkable thing about the Japanese approach is maintaining insulin sensitivity throughout entire lives through meal structure and consistency. A typical Japanese meal is smaller than a Western meal. The portion is roughly the size of a closed fist for carbohydrates, the size of a palm for protein, with vegetables filling the remainder. They eat multiple times daily, but each meal is modest. This means blood sugar rises gradually, insulin response is proportional, and bodies remain in metabolic flexibility. Metabolic flexibility means your body switches efficiently between burning glucose and burning fat. You don't experience blood sugar crashes, afternoon energy slumps, or constant hunger. When you eat larger meals, your digestive system processes more food at once. Blood sugar rises sharply. Insulin spikes. Cells become overwhelmed with glucose they can't use, so that glucose gets stored as fat. The rapid rise and fall creates energy crashes, triggering hunger hormones and making you eat again within hours. People eating large, infrequent meals feel hungry constantly, even consuming more calories than those eating smaller, frequent meals. It's not a willpower problem, it's a physiological consequence of meal structure. For adults over 50, this becomes critical. Metabolic rate naturally declines due to muscle loss and mitochondrial dysfunction. Japanese elders don't experience the same decline because they've never disrupted their metabolic flexibility. They've never trained their bodies to become insulin resistant. Even as metabolism naturally declines, it's declining from a much higher baseline and remains functional. Here's how to apply this. Assess your current meal pattern. If you're eating large meals with several hours between them, that's a problem. Your body spends most of the day in hunger with blood sugar instability. Shift towards smaller, more frequent meals. Eat actual food with protein every 3 to 4 hours. Breakfast should be substantial. Eggs with vegetables or fish with rice. Mid-morning, fruit with nuts or seeds. Lunch should be balanced. Afternoon, perhaps miso soup or vegetables with protein. Dinner similar to breakfast. The goal is keeping blood sugar stable throughout the day, keeping insulin response proportional, and training your body back to metabolic flexibility. This takes time, several months of consistent eating patterns to restore sensitivity, but it will happen. When you begin eating this way, your energy becomes more stable. You stop experiencing afternoon crashes. Your hunger becomes rational. You feel hungry at meal times, not between them. Within 2 to 3 weeks, you'll feel more satisfied with smaller portions because satiety hormones function properly. Within 2 to 3 months, your body composition changes even without changing exercise routines. Metabolic flexibility is restored. Your body is no longer desperately storing every calorie as fat. It's burning fuel efficiently. Does this align with what you've suspected about how your metabolism should work? If you're beginning to see the connection between meal structure and metabolic health, comment and let me know. One of the most powerful differences between Japanese and Western populations is fermented foods at nearly every meal. Miso, natto, tempeh, fermented vegetables. These aren't luxuries in Japanese cuisine, they're staples. The reason they're crucial is what they do to your gut microbiome, gut barrier integrity, and systemic inflammation. Your gut is lined with a single layer of epithelial cells forming the intestinal barrier. This barrier is selective, allowing nutrients in, keeping pathogens and toxins out. In modern Western diets, particularly after 50, this barrier breaks down through intestinal permeability or leaky gut. It happens from chronic inflammation caused by processed foods, excessive sugar, and dysbiosis, when pathogenic bacteria outnumber beneficial bacteria. When your intestinal barrier is compromised, bacterial lipopolysaccharides, toxins from harmful bacteria, leak through into your bloodstream. Your immune system mounts an inflammatory response. This low-grade, chronic inflammation throughout your entire body drives cognitive decline, cardiovascular disease, autoimmune conditions, and accelerated aging. Second, you lose nutrient absorption ability. Even eating good food, if your intestinal barrier is damaged, you're not extracting micronutrients effectively. You become nutritionally deficient despite consuming adequate calories. Fermented foods address this directly. When you ferment foods using bacteria like lactobacillus, you're restoring beneficial bacteria to your gut, increasing microbial diversity, and producing compounds repairing intestinal barrier integrity. Specifically, fermented foods produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate. Butyrate is the preferred fuel for colonocytes, cells lining your colon. When you feed these cells their preferred fuel, they become stronger, producing more tight junctions, the actual connections holding your intestinal barrier together. Miso, fermented soybeans, is particularly valuable. A Japanese study tracking adults over 50 found that those consuming miso daily had significantly lower rates of cardiovascular disease and certain cancers. The mechanism wasn't magic, it was gut health. Beneficial bacteria in miso restored intestinal barrier integrity, reducing systemic inflammation that damages the cardiovascular system and promotes cancer development. Natto, fermented soybeans with specific bacteria, provides vitamin K2, crucial for bone and cardiovascular health, extremely deficient in Western populations. When Japanese people consume miso soup at breakfast, fermented vegetables with lunch, and natto at dinner, they're not making special health choices. These foods are simply part of their cuisine. But physiologically, They're maintaining gut barrier integrity and preventing systemic inflammation, accelerating disease in aging populations. They're inoculating themselves against the chronic, low-grade inflammatory state most Western adults over 50 live in, often unknowingly. Your application requires consistency. You need fermented foods daily. If you can find miso, add a spoon to hot water in the morning. Add sea vegetables and tofu for a medicinal breakfast. If miso isn't available, fermented vegetables work. Sauerkraut, kimchi, fermented cucumbers. A small serving with each meal. Within 2 to 3 weeks of consuming fermented foods daily, most people notice digestion, energy, and mental clarity improvements. Within 2 to 3 months, beneficial effects on inflammation and barrier integrity compound. Your skin often improves. Your energy becomes more stable. Your immune function improves. This is preventive medicine. You're preventing disease by maintaining biological conditions that keep disease from developing. Have you noticed digestive health or energy shifts when consuming more fermented foods? Let me know in the comments. Seaweed and sea vegetables are among the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Seaweed is important for maintaining metabolic health and preventing weight gain through micronutrients. Minerals controlling thyroid function, metabolic rate, and bone density. Your thyroid is a butterfly-sized gland at your neck's base producing thyroid hormones, T4 and T3. These control your metabolic rate, how fast you burn calories, and how efficiently you convert food into energy. A functioning thyroid produces sufficient hormone, your metabolism runs appropriately, and your body effectively maintains weight and energy. An underperforming thyroid produces insufficient hormone, your metabolism slows, you gain weight even while eating normally, and you feel constantly fatigued. Thyroid hormone production depends absolutely on iodine. Without it, your thyroid cannot produce hormones. Iodine deficiency is far more common than most realize, even in developed countries. Western diet's primary iodine source used to be iodized salt. With low salt trends, many people reduced salt intake. Some switched to sea salt or Himalayan salt, containing virtually no iodine. So iodine intake dropped. Seaweed, specifically kelp and other brown seaweeds, contains extraordinarily high iodine amounts. A single nori sheet contains enough iodine for daily requirements. Kelp contains massive amounts. This is why Japanese populations consuming seaweed regularly maintain optimal iodine status and therefore maintain thyroid function throughout life. Their metabolic rate doesn't decline as severely because their thyroid is continuously supported with minerals needed for hormone production. Seaweed also contains magnesium, selenium, zinc, and numerous other minerals in highly bioavailable forms. Magnesium is crucial for over 300 enzymatic processes. Selenium is crucial for thyroid hormone metabolism. Zinc is essential for protein synthesis and immune function. For adults over 50, this becomes particularly important because mineral absorption naturally declines with age. You need to be more deliberate about consuming mineral-dense foods. Seaweed is one of the simplest ways to address this. The application is straightforward. You can consume seaweed in several forms. Nori sheets can be eaten as snacks or crumbled over rice or soups. Kelp can be added to soups or broths. Dulse and wakame are other options. Your goal is consuming a small amount regularly, just a consistent mineral source. Within a few weeks of adding seaweed to your diet, many people notice subtle energy improvements. Within a few months, if you've struggled with slow metabolism or weight gain not responding to calorie restriction, you may notice your metabolism responds more normally. The mechanism is direct and biological. You're providing your thyroid gland with raw materials it needs to do its job. When your thyroid gets the minerals it requires, hormone production normalizes, metabolic rate normalizes, and your body's ability to maintain weight stabilizes. Have you noticed energy or metabolic rate differences when adding mineral-rich foods like seaweed? I'd like to hear your experience in the comments. Japanese coastal populations consume fish 4 to 6 times weekly on average. This isn't a recent trend or conscious health choice. It's simply living on an island where fish is abundant and accessible. But this dietary pattern has profound health effects through omega-3 fatty acids and their effect on inflammation at the cellular level. Every cell in your body is wrapped in a membrane made primarily of phospholipid, essentially, fat. That membrane's composition determines how the cell functions. If that membrane is made from omega-3 rich fats, it has different properties: more flexible, better nutrient transport and hormone signaling. If that membrane is made from omega-6 rich fats or damaged fats, it's stiffer, less functional, and increases inflammatory signaling. In modern Western diets, primary dietary fat comes from vegetable oils, soybean oil, canola oil, sunflower oil. These are extraordinarily high in omega-6 polyunsaturated fat and often damaged through processing. When you consume large damaged omega-6 fat amounts, these get incorporated into your cell membranes. Your membranes become stiff, function deteriorates, and inflammatory signaling increases. You develop chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout your entire body, inflammaging, the root cause of most age-related disease. Omega-3 fatty acids, particularly EPA and DHA found in fish, have the opposite effect. When consumed regularly, they get incorporated into cell membranes and decrease inflammatory signaling. This happens at the molecular level. Omega-3s literally change how your immune cells function, how neurons communicate, how blood vessels respond. Studies repeatedly show that fish-consuming populations have lower cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, and inflammatory condition rates. This isn't magic. It's biochemistry. The dosage matters. You need sufficient amounts to actually change your cellular composition. Consuming fish once monthly won't do it. Consuming fish 4 to 6 times weekly will. The Japanese approach isn't creating some special metabolic state through fish consumption. It's simply maintaining omega-3 intake level sufficient to keep your cell membranes in a non-inflamed state. Fish provides not only omega-3s but also high-quality protein, selenium, and vitamin D in highly bioavailable forms. For adults over 50, protein plus omega-3s plus micronutrients makes fish particularly valuable. Muscle loss accelerates after 50, particularly in people without adequate protein intake. Fish provides complete protein with all essential amino acids, making it efficient for supporting muscle preservation. The practical application is clear. You need fish regularly, not a special occasion but as dietary staple. 4 to 6 times weekly is ideal. This doesn't mean eating sushi or elaborate fish preparations. Simple grilled fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines, herring, trout, provides all benefits. Fatty, cold water fish contain more omega-3s than lean fish, so salmon, mackerel, sardines, and herring are better choices. But even lean fish provides benefits exceeding not eating fish. When you increase fish intake from negligible amounts to 4 to 6 times weekly, several things happen. Within a few weeks, if you have joint inflammation or arthritis, you'll often notice improvement. Your brain fog often clears. Your mood often improves. Within a few months, cardiovascular markers improve, inflammatory markers in blood drop, and skin health often improves. These aren't magical effects. They're natural consequences of reducing cellular inflammation and providing your cells with building blocks they need to function properly. Have you experienced joint health, mental clarity, or inflammation marker changes when increasing fish consumption? I'd like to hear what you've noticed. In Japan, green tea isn't consumed as special health beverage. It's consumed daily, often multiple times, simply as cultural part. This consistent green tea consumption provides continuous source of a compound called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate. This compound is directly responsible for metabolic resilience and preventing metabolic decline with age. To understand what EGCG does, you need understanding what happens to your mitochondria as you age. Mitochondria are energy-producing structures inside your cells. They take glucose and fat and convert them into ATP, the energy currency powering everything your cells do. As you age, several things happen. They become less efficient. They produce more free radicals. They become dysfunctional. This mitochondrial decline is one of aging's primary mechanisms. EGCG addresses this directly. It's a polyphenol, plant compound with powerful antioxidant properties. More importantly, It functions as a mitochondrial protectant. It directly protects mitochondrial DNA from damage. It supports mitochondrial function. It increases enzyme expression, improving fat oxidation. It also supports autophagy, your body's cellular cleanup mechanism. When you consume EGCG regularly, you're supporting energy-producing structures in your cells. This means your cells can produce energy more efficiently. This means your metabolic rate doesn't decline as severely as you age. Studies comparing tea drinkers to non-tea drinkers consistently show that tea drinkers have lower body weights, lower body fat percentages, better metabolic health, and lower weight gain rates with age. Dosage and preparation matter. Powdered green tea, matcha, contains the entire leaf ground into powder, so you get maximum compound amount. Loose leaf or tea bag green tea contains the compound but less. Temperature matters. EGCG is heat sensitive. If you brew green tea with too hot water, you destroy some EGCG. Ideal brewing temperature is around 160 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Steeping 3 to 5 minutes is appropriate. For adults over 50, this becomes particularly important. Your metabolism has naturally declined somewhat already due to muscle loss and mitochondrial dysfunction. If you want counteracting this decline, you need supporting the mitochondria you still have. Green tea is one of the most accessible, most affordable ways to do this. The application is straightforward. Drink green tea regularly. The target is 2 to 3 cups daily, prepared correctly. Brew proper loose leaf or matcha green tea with water that's not boiling. Add nothing to it. No sugar, no milk, no honey. The compounds you're after are in the tea itself. Green tea contains small caffeine amounts, but along with caffeine, it contains L-theanine. L-theanine creates alert calm. It boosts attention and focus without the jittery feeling coffee might provide. This is why Japanese people can drink green tea throughout the day without becoming overstimulated. Within a week or two of regular green tea consumption, many people notice improved focus and mental clarity. Within a few weeks, energy levels often stabilize and improve. Within 2 to 3 months, if you've struggled with slow metabolism or weight loss difficulty, you may notice your metabolism becoming more responsive. It's because you're supporting actual cellular mechanisms determining metabolic rate. You're protecting and enhancing mitochondrial function. When your mitochondria work better, your metabolism works better. Have you noticed energy, focus, or metabolic function differences when incorporating more green tea into your daily routine? Let me know in the comments. One of the biggest misconceptions about Japanese health is that it comes from special exercise routines or intense physical activity. The opposite is true. What they do instead is maintaining consistent, low-intensity movement throughout their entire day. A Japanese person doesn't drive directly to their office. They walk to a train station. They walk from the train to their office. They don't email a colleague sitting nearby. They get up and walk to that person's desk. They don't buy in bulk at megastores. They shop daily or every other day, meaning they're walking to local shops multiple times weekly. These aren't exercise activities. These are normal daily activities. But cumulatively, they result in hours of movement weekly. This is crucial for muscle preservation. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. A pound of muscle burns roughly 6 calories daily at rest, compared to a pound of fat burning about 2 calories daily. Muscle is also the primary glucose storage site. When you have adequate muscle mass, you can store consumed glucose in that muscle tissue. When muscle is insufficient, glucose goes elsewhere, primarily into fat storage. In Western populations over 50, what we see is rapid muscle loss. This is partly due to reduced physical activity and reduced protein intake. But it's also partly due to the exercise type being emphasized. High-intensity exercise, if you're not already adapted to it, actually causes muscle damage without corresponding muscle building. Japanese populations maintain muscle through consistent, low-intensity movement. This type of movement is sustainable indefinitely. You can do it every single day. You don't need recovery days. You don't get injured. You don't get burned out. A 90-year-old Japanese person can walk several miles daily because they've been doing that their entire life. Their movement is built into their daily existence. The application for you requires honest assessment of your current movement patterns. How much time are you spending sitting? If you're sitting most of the day, that's a problem. That sedentary time accelerates muscle loss, metabolic decline, and contributes to nearly every chronic disease. The solution isn't starting intense exercise programs. The solution is increasing your daily movement throughout your day in sustainable ways. Here are practical strategies. If possible, walk to places instead of driving. If you need somewhere that requires a car, can you park farther away and walk additional distance? Can you take stairs instead of elevators? Can you stand while making phone calls? Can you stand at a desk instead of sitting all day? Can you do household chores standing and moving instead of sitting? Your goal is accumulating movement throughout your day without it feeling like exercise. If you can get 4 to 5 hours light movement throughout your day, just constant, low-intensity activity, you'll maintain muscle mass far better than sitting all day then doing 1-hour workouts. Additionally, you'll maintain better blood sugar control throughout the day. You'll have better energy. You'll sleep better. For very sedentary people, this might start with just 30 minutes walking daily. As that becomes normal, you can increase it. Your goal is consistency and sustainability. Movement you can do for the rest of your life is far more valuable than intense exercise you can't maintain for a few months. One additional point about muscle preservation. Protein becomes more important as you age. Your body becomes less efficient at converting dietary protein into muscle. So you need more protein than a younger person to maintain the same amount of muscle. Japanese populations eat consistent protein at every meal: fish, soy, eggs, providing amino acids needed for muscle maintenance. If you're engaging in more movement, you also need adequate protein supporting muscle preservation. Within a few weeks of increasing daily movement and maintaining adequate protein intake, most people notice energy and strength improvements. Within a few months, body composition improves. If you've struggled with weight gain despite calorie restriction, increasing movement and protein often breaks through that plateau. This is because you're building muscle tissue. You might not see huge scale drops, but your body composition improves significantly. You look leaner. You feel stronger. Your pants fit differently. The reason this works is because you're preserving the very tissue controlling your metabolic rate and glucose disposal. You're creating biological conditions for weight stability and health. You're not fighting against your body through restriction. You're supporting it through movement and nourishment. Have you noticed how your energy and body composition change when you increase your daily movement, even without formal exercise? I'd like to hear your experience. Here's a statement that might surprise you. Japanese people aren't engaging in superhuman willpower exercises when eating smaller portions. They're not struggling against hunger while eating less. They're simply eating amounts matching their biological need, and they feel appropriately satisfied. The reason they can do this, and the reason most Western adults struggle with overeating, comes down to satiety hormones and how eating speed affects when those hormones are triggered. Your body has built-in signals telling you when you're full. When food enters your digestive system, it triggers release of hormones like GLP-1 and CCK. These hormones signal to your brain that you're satisfied. This is a powerful mechanism. It's supposed to prevent overeating. But this mechanism only works if you're not eating so fast that you've already overloaded your stomach before the signal arrives. The issue is that these satiety hormones require 15 to 20 minutes reaching peak levels. If you eat quickly, you can easily consume far more food than your body needs before that signal arrives. You feel full, but by then you've already consumed twice what you needed. This is overeating's mechanism in Western populations. People aren't eating large portions because they're lazy. They're eating large portions because they eat fast, and satiety signals haven't arrived telling them to stop. Japanese cultural norms around eating directly address this. Meals are eaten slowly. There are breaks between courses. There's emphasis on thorough chewing. You don't eat in front of screens. You eat at a table, often with others, and the meal is a focused activity. This slowed eating pace means that by the time you've finished appropriately sized meals, satiety hormones have signaled, and you feel genuinely full. You don't feel white-knuckling through hunger. You feel satisfied. Additionally, Japanese meals are structured supporting satiety. They include protein at every meal, the most satiating macronutrient. They include plenty of vegetables providing volume with few calories. When eating vegetables, you're filling your stomach, triggering mechanical satiety signals. They include fat from fish or other sources, also satiating. What they don't include is large refined carbohydrate amounts without fiber, which are rapidly absorbed, don't trigger strong satiety signals, and lead to rapid blood sugar spikes followed by crashes triggering hunger. The practical application involves restructuring both your meal composition and your eating behavior. First, meal composition. Each meal should include protein, healthy fat, and vegetables. Protein and fat provide satiety. Vegetables provide volume and micronutrients. Carbohydrates should be whole grains or starchy vegetables retaining their fiber. This keeps you satisfied for several hours. Second, eating speed. Deliberately slow down. Put your fork down between bites. Chew thoroughly. Aim spending at least 20 minutes on meals. This gives satiety hormones time to kick in. If you finish meals in 5 minutes, you won't feel satisfied. If you spend 20 minutes on the same food amount, you feel genuinely satisfied with less. Third, portion size. Japanese portions are generally smaller than Western portions. A reasonable guide is roughly your closed fist size for carbohydrates, your palm size for protein, and as many vegetables as you want. Fourth, eliminate distractions while eating. If you're eating while working or watching screens, you're not registering satiety signals. Eat at a table. Focus on the meal. Fifth, don't eat in extreme hunger states. If you've gone too long without eating and you're ravenously hungry, you'll eat faster and eat more before satiety signals arrive. This is why multiple smaller meals throughout the day matter. You never get desperately hungry. When you implement these changes, several things happen. Within a few days of eating more slowly, you'll notice feeling full sooner. Within a week or two, as you adjust meal composition, you'll notice feeling more satisfied between meals. You'll stop experiencing mid-afternoon hunger. Within a few weeks, you'll eat substantially less total food because you're actually registering satiety. The remarkable thing is that this isn't deprivation. You're not eating less while feeling hungry. You're eating less because you're actually satisfied. This is why Japanese people maintain stable weight their entire lives without constant willpower struggles. They're simply responding to their body's actual signals instead of fighting against them. Have you experienced appetite and satisfaction differences when slowing down your eating pace or changing meal composition? Let me know what you've noticed. Now, what we've discussed are 8 separate components: metabolic flexibility through meal structure, gut health through fermented foods, thyroid support through mineral-dense seaweed, cellular inflammation management through fish omega-3s, mitochondrial function through green tea, muscle preservation through consistent movement, and satiety control through eating speed and composition. Each would be beneficial alone. But the remarkable thing about the Japanese longevity approach is these 8 components work together synergistically. They're not isolated interventions. They're part of an integrated system where each component supports the others. When you eat smaller meals with adequate protein and healthy fat, you're maintaining metabolic flexibility. When consuming fermented foods daily, you're maintaining gut barrier integrity and reducing systemic inflammation. When consuming mineral-dense seaweed, you're supporting thyroid function. When consuming fish regularly, you're reducing cellular inflammation and providing protein for muscle preservation. When drinking green tea, you're protecting mitochondrial function. When engaging in consistent daily movement, you're preserving muscle mass. And when eating slowly with appropriate portion sizes, you're working with your body's satiety mechanisms. The result of all this working together is something remarkable. Your body is not in chronic metabolic stress. You're not fighting hunger constantly. You're not experiencing blood sugar crashes. You're not accumulating fat because your cells are inflamed and your metabolism has slowed. Instead, your body is in biological coherence. Everything is supporting everything else. This is why chronic disease is so rare in healthy aging Japanese populations. It's not because they're genetically superior. It's not because they have some special secret. It's because they're living in ways maintaining all biological conditions preventing disease in the first place. They're maintaining insulin sensitivity, low inflammation, mitochondrial function, adequate muscle mass, and proper hormonal signaling. When all these things are intact, the chronic diseases plaguing Western aging simply don't develop with the same frequency. For adults over 50, this integrated approach is not luxury. It's necessary. Natural metabolic decline with age can only be countered through supporting all these systems simultaneously. You need the dietary patterns supporting metabolic flexibility. You need fermented foods maintaining gut health. You need seaweed supporting thyroid function. You need fish reducing inflammation. You need green tea supporting mitochondrial function. You need movement preserving muscle. You need eating behavior working with satiety signals. It's one integrated approach to living in ways maintaining biological conditions for metabolic health and disease prevention. And here's the beautiful part. None of this requires becoming Japanese or moving to Japan. These are principles. They're universal human biology. A 50-year-old American can implement every single one of these strategies right now. You can eat smaller, more frequent meals. You can find fermented foods or make them yourself. You can buy seaweed online. You can buy fish at your grocery store. You can buy green tea. You can walk more. You can slow down your eating pace. These are all accessible. They all require intention and consistency, but they don't require special equipment or genetic advantage. The reason this approach works is because you're not fighting your biology. You're supporting it. You're creating the conditions allowing your body to do what it's designed to do. Maintain health, resist disease, and age gracefully. When you do this consistently, the results compound. Within 3 months, most people notice significant changes. Within 6 months, the changes are substantial. Within a year, if you've been consistent, your entire relationship with food and your body transforms. The other crucial piece is that this isn't about achieving some perfect state and then stopping. This is about building habits you maintain for the rest of your life. And because these habits are sustainable, people can actually maintain them long-term. A Japanese person doesn't eat fish regularly because they're forcing themselves. They eat fish regularly because it's part of their culture and their daily life. They don't walk everywhere because they're trying to exercise. They walk because it's how you get around. This is the final piece. Making these habits so integrated into your daily life that they stop being something you have to remember and start being something you just do. When you reach that point, when walking more, eating fish regularly, consuming fermented foods, drinking green tea, and eating slowly are just your normal daily patterns, the metabolic benefits are no longer something you have to struggle for. They're just the natural consequence of how you live. The other remarkable aspect is that this is medicinal beyond just weight management. Yes, you maintain stable weight. But you're also preventing the chronic diseases coming with aging. You're reducing your risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, cognitive decline, cancer. You're maintaining your independence and your physical capability as you age. This is not vanity. This is longevity medicine. This is the difference between aging and aging well. The statement we started with now has a complete answer. It's not genetics. It's biology. It's consistent implementation of habits maintaining metabolic health, reducing inflammation, supporting mitochondrial function, and preserving physical capability. And those habits are available to anyone, anywhere, right now. The implementation is the challenge, not the knowledge. You now have the knowledge. The question is whether you'll implement it consistently enough that it becomes automatic, that it becomes simply how you live. What we've covered today is not a diet. It's not a supplement protocol. It's not a special workout routine. It's an understanding of how human biology actually works. The evidence for this approach isn't anecdotal. It's based on decades of research documenting the longevity and disease prevention outcomes of aging populations implementing exactly these strategies. The reason I walked you through this in detail is because understanding the mechanism makes the difference between short-term behavior change and lasting habit formation. When you know fermented foods are protecting your intestinal barrier integrity, you're more likely making them consistent dietary parts. When understanding green tea is protecting your mitochondria, you're more likely making it a daily habit. When understanding consistent movement is the primary tool for preserving muscle mass and metabolic rate, you're more likely integrating it into your daily life. This is actionable knowledge. This is information you can implement today. You can start with one thing if that feels manageable. You can add more over time. But I will say this, the more completely you implement these integrated strategies, the more dramatic the results. The people seeing the most transformation are the people changing multiple things simultaneously, because all these components support each other. If you're concerned about your metabolism, your weight, your aging, your risk of chronic disease, this is the framework that scientific evidence supports most strongly. Not special diets, not supplements, not surgery, but the daily decisions about what you eat, how you move, and how you eat that food. I'd love hearing from you about which of these ideas resonates most. The comment section is where we can have real conversation about this. And if you found this information valuable, subscribing to this channel means you'll get more content like this, the actual science behind longevity and the practical strategies implementing it. We don't do hype or false promises here. We do education and biology. I'll be releasing another video soon going deeper into one specific aspect of this. So stay subscribed if you want continuing to learn about maintaining health as you age. Thank you for taking the time going through this with me. The fact that you watched this entire video means you're serious about understanding your health. That's the first step. Understanding comes before implementation. And implementation is what changes the outcome.